As I play more of Dead by Daylight, I can't help but place certain personality types on characters, and these tend to reflect the community's views. Leons and Megs are always new players that attempt to give me a stroke. Nia and Feng players, they just scare me. And then there's Haddie. I can't help but love her. She is probably going to be my new main from now on. And this is a big surprise for many of you, considering how I love Cheryl and Serena so much. Haddie, however, is just such a fantastic character. Not only because of her lore, which is amazing, but because of what she represents. Haddie has struggled to receive any love from behavior since her launch, and the fact that the small community of Haddie mains and everyone else who fought for her managed to get justice, I can't help but respect what happened. So to celebrate not only my initiation as a Haddie main, but also the new content she will be getting soon, I thought it would be wise to look at not one, not two, but all three of her perks for the Why No One Uses series. I normally like to give perks their own time to shine in a separate video, but since this is a big event, I feel all three being discussed is a good idea. There's also the small issue that all three of these perks are some of the most boring and genuinely lackluster perks to ever exist in the game. It's actually a sin that behavior have committed for designing these perks the way that they are. It is as if behavior actually set up Haddie to fail from square one. However, just like how Haddie is getting some love, let's attempt to give her perks a tune-up too. Before we go down this dumpster fire though, let's talk about another one. I have a Twitter now, fellas. I'll be posting funny memes showing how far I am on other videos, and more importantly, I will be posting polls on there. That way, just like how Haddie is getting cosmetic options, you guys get to choose what videos you want to see. Now let's start Haddie's dumpster fire of perks by talking about the most tolerable of the bunch, that being Residual Manifest. Residual Manifest's effect is, after blinding the killer, they are inflicted with a blindness status effect for 30 seconds. Along with this, you are also granted the ability to rummage through an open chest to find a yellow flashlight. Like I said, this is probably Haddie's most tolerable perk of the bunch, mainly because it does something unique. Blindness is a status effect that for the longest time has only existed for killers, and the sheer fact that it now exists on a survivor perk is actually even more funny. Blindness, however, is a very strange status effect, mainly because it removes aura reading, and this does not really hurt survivors too much. It can, however, break certain killers. Huntress, Nurse, Artist, and many more who love aura reading perks now all of a sudden cannot see any auras. This can also change the game, because if the killer does not remember where a gen is, this could make or break them from stopping gens, or even finding a hook. However, Residual Manifest does not really see too much play, and there are two main reasons. The first is that the perk is just so obnoxiously slow. Like, if you decide for some weird reason not to bring a flashlight, then you have to open a chest, then you have to drop the item you find, and then you can rummage to find a basic yellow flashlight. You could get lucky and find a flashlight from the chest normally, or be smart and bring a flashlight with you, but it's just so annoying. Imagine a killer perk, where you have to injure every survivor, wait on the cooldown to activate the perk, and hook someone. Oh wait, that's literally Blood Echo. The second problem is that the blindness effect only lasts for 30 seconds too, which, although lengthy, just does not bite as much as other survivor perks. I do like that Residual Manifest has something unique going for it, and overall it can be ignored balance-wise for other perks in need, but this is a video for Haddie, so we're spicing the perk up. There are two ideas I have for the perk, one very simple, and the other that makes the perk feel a lot nicer. The first buff option is to increase the blindness effect to 45 seconds. 15 extra seconds may not sound very impressive, however, I don't think it needs to go any more higher, else it can get really abusive to face. But I do think 30 is too short for the perk. Buffing it up to 15 makes it reach that sweet spot of a nice way to fight back against aura reading, but not too oppressive at the same time. The second buff option is to speed up the flashlight acquirement. Instead of having to rummage for a flashlight, you will instead have this effect. When the trial starts and you do not have an item, you are given a yellow flashlight. That is it. I can't think of a better way to speed up getting flashlight than just spawning into the game with one for free. This also could be problematic, however, with Swifts, who can abuse the perk by using it to hide the fact that they have a flashlight, but also, let's remember, it's a yellow flashlight without any add-ons. I'm sure this could be fine, plus, flashlights do make players more dumb than usual, so killer mains, you can enjoy too. Overall though, Residual Manifest is a fine perk the way it is, it's just that it could be a little more mean than how it is currently. Sadly, this is the most tolerable of the 3 perks, and we're only going down from here.
Oh, that's good. I keep having this nagging feeling that I've forgotten something.
Hey, if you forgot it, it probably wasn't all that important.
Yeah, I guess.
The next perk we will look at is Overzealous, which, if you were to watch my Dark Theory crafting video, is a powerful perk when used in specific situations. The perk is simple enough to understand. Whenever you break a totem, you gain an 8% repair speed boost. If it were a hex totem, it's instead doubled to 16. This repair speed buff is removed the moment you lose a health state, and it can only return once you break another totem. Simple to understand and simple to activate the perk. It is cute. However, it does not feel very powerful. The big reason people tend to get scared of buffing this perk in any way is the repair speed. If it were to get more potent, this can lead to new gen speed metas, but 8% just really feels pathetic to run many times. In fact, the killer being able to remove the perk's power is another reason this perk does not feel very nice to use. Even though you could just break another totem, there are only 5. What happens if they're all gone? What if someone on your team runs a Boon? I do like the idea of Overzealous interacting with totems, however. It is like Haddie is fighting against the killers of the realm by targeting one of their biggest playmakers. So, if I were to change Overzealous, I would keep the totem interaction aspect. So overall, Overzealous' problems are that it does not feel rewarding enough, considering it can be removed easily by the killer. There is a limitation of totems, meaning it limits its value already. And compared to other gen speed perks, it is a joke. I have 2 realistic ways of changing this perk, one that fixates on breaking totems down, and another enhancing the idea that breaking totems weakens the killer in some way. The first buff option I would do is an additional effect, where if all 5 totems on the map are gone, you will retain the 8% repair speed boost. I like the repair speeds already on Overzealous, and if we were to increase its value anymore, it could break the perk. But I do like the idea of giving the perk a minigame. It not only rewards you for breaking all the totems with an 8% repair speed boost, but it also gives other players a slight buff when they try to use Overzealous, but they can't break any totems. I do see possible flaws with this, however, especially in a Swift situation where the repair speed buff could be abused. The second buff option, instead of leaning towards rewarding a totem breaking minigame, just gives a flat value to the perk. Along with the current effect, if you break a totem, you see the killer aura for 5 seconds, and if it's a hex totem, it's doubled to 10. I love the idea that breaking totems weakens the killer in some way, and giving an aura read to reveal where they are is a great way to show that. I also have to admit, I like the idea that Overzealous acts slightly like a hex counter, where the perk gets stronger if you break totems that actively power the killer. Overzealous overall just suffers from the problem of being boring. If it had something else included, it might be more interesting to run, but right now, it's just kinda there. Alrighty, 1 perk left to talk about. Oh dear.
Whoa! This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
The last perk we will look at is Inner Focus. Yes, this is a perk in the game. No, you probably don't know what it does. Inner Focus allows you to see the scratch marks of allies, which... okay. But also allows you to see the killer's aura, if they injure a survivor, while they're 32 meters close to you. So we have an aura read that does not have 1, not 2, but 3 limitations, which makes it already terrible. And then we have the ability to see scratch marks, which I see no real use. You might be thinking of fixated, oh my bad, self-aware right now, but the perk allows you to see your own scratch marks, where you can manipulate it how you want, and the 15% walking speed is no joke, let's be honest. Inner Focus in comparison just does nothing. The aura read can be done by using better perks which do not have a range limit such as alert or fogwise, and There's nothing cool you can do with Inner Focus's allied scratch marks. I can't even think of a realistic way to buff this perk, other than removing the range limit, but even then it still keeps the perk pretty bad. This means we'll have to talk to her. Hello, the bane of my existence. You know what to do. Sadly.
Escucha las palabras de las brujas, los secretos escondidos en la noche. Los antiguos dioses invocamos ahora la obra de la magia oculta.
Oh, I hate talking to Michaela. Hopefully nothing bad happened. Oh dear. But deserved, I suppose. So the best way to change Inner Focus is to rename it, from Inner Focus to Boon Inner Focus. I know people tend to not like boons, but I do think this is the best way to show Haddie's magical elements, along with how she can turn the tides of battle, where she can use whatever the entity throws at her and Uno reverse card it. The perk would have all the things boons currently have, 24-meter range, killer can snuff the totem, all that jazz. But its effect would be completely different from how it is now. Survivors who are within the totem's range have their scratch mark spacing become inconsistent, and every 5 seconds the scratch marks become hidden by 1 second. This effect will last for 4 seconds after leaving the boon. You may realize this is a similar effect to Lightbait, and you would be right. I think it would be a cool boon idea to do, considering how popular Lightweight got after its rework. I just think new boon ideas like this are great. One more effect this boon would have is a separate effect for the placer. Whenever you're in the boon's range and any ally survivor is injured, you are granted bleeding for 5 seconds. This is actually a new status effect, but what does bleeding do? Oh, nothing too interesting, just that you can see the killer aura, no matter what. A better way to describe this status effect is True Sight, but bleeding fits more with Haddie, considering the visions she had are called bleeds. I find it rather strange that Behavior have yet to add an aura read that ignores every aura read denial for survivors, but maybe it's because they are afraid it could break stealth killers? But I think limiting it to one person like the Placer is fine. In fact, they have to be in Boon Inner Focus in order to get the bleeding effect, but if it proves to be too strong, they can remove it. Instead, keep the current effect I mentioned. The reason why I gave a second effect is because of Boon's Shadow Step. The perk removes scratch marks, so if these two existed, it is clear which one would be used more. I also think that Behavior wanted Inner Focus to be the perk that shows Haddie's ability to see the strangeness of the entity, which I guess explains the scratch marks. But even then, I think something special like bleeding would be a more compelling idea. Honestly, anything is good for Inner Focus. The perk is practically a cosmetic option on the corner of your screen, and I mentioned the boon because it would be the best way to show Haddie had a connection to the entity, an antagonistic one.
It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Looking over all 3 of Haddie's perks, I have to admit I can see Behavior attempting to include the elements of what made her character interesting. Inner Focus, allowing you to see scratch marks that represent the bleed. Residual Manifest to show how she fights back against everything the entity throws at her, and Overzealous to show she will push through till the end. It's just a shame that they were done in such a weak and rather boring way. Hopefully, whenever Behavior take a look at her perks again, they can change them in a way that shows how interesting and fun Haddie truly is. That is all I have to say. What are your opinions on all 3 of Haddie's perks? Do you think they are too weak? Too strong? Or are you crazy enough to think they are just fine? In the end, I cannot wait for your comments, so good luck in your games everyone. You will need it.